The Chinese economy is slowing down. People are talking about a recession. So what is America's input? $500 million. With $500 million in its kitty, America launches a project called the Lobito corridor and wants to counter China in Africa. What India did during G20 was, Prime Minister Modi actually said that African Union will become part of G20. It leads to greater trade, it leads to greater symbiosis. Jai friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues English. Like this video, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. You all know about the Belt and Road Initiative. You're all aware that in the African Union, there are 55 countries and out of them, 52 have signed up for the Belt and Road Initiative. And what exactly is China doing? What is the Belt and Road Initiative? The Belt and Road Initiative, ladies and gentlemen, is a huge, massive, sophisticated network of train tracks, railway tracks, of physical infrastructure, including roads and bridges. This is the Belt and Road Initiative. Through this, China proposes to actually influence global trade. So the Belt and Road Initiative will take back raw materials from other countries to China, ensure that China does finished goods there because China is a manufacturing powerhouse, the world's biggest manufacturing powerhouse rather. And China gives the world finished goods. Also China's energy security, because China does not have oil, so China wants oil from Arab countries, from countries throughout the world, wherever it can get cheap oil. It also gives a lot of diplomatic push to China's efforts. They're wolf warriors, they're diplomats, they're called wolf warriors. And this entire scheme of things is the Belt and Road Initiative. The flagship venture is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. $50 billion have been spent in Pakistan and it counts for zero in Pakistan because obviously the Pakistanis stole the money and now there is nothing to show for it except for a few nice airports and a few roads. Airports that nobody uses because the airlines are down in the ground and roads, fuel is so expensive. So, you see, they've got their priorities backwards. Anyway, we'll deal with Pakistan later. Today, I'd like to dwell on Africa a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. So, to counter the Chinese, the United States of America has come up with a plan called the Lobito corridor. Now, what is the Lobito corridor? Lobito corridor is essentially about mining zinc and copper and other minerals in Central Africa and getting them to the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. Lobito is a place in Angola. Now, Zambia is the place located where all these mineral excavations and digging will happen in Zambia. From Zambia, while the digging happens, America will create an entire sophisticated rail network costing approximately $1.6 billion US. This will link up with another rail network which already exists in Angola. And the entire idea is to send it to the side of the Atlantic Ocean to this place called Lobito. Lobito is in Angola, from where ships can take it across the world for manufacturing, etc. Essentially to counter Chinese influence. I think that it will take much more to counter Chinese investments in Africa. First of all, there are a couple of things that America and the world must know. A, China has been investing in Africa for the past 2 decades. So more than 20 years or 25 years, China has been investing. China has made inroads. And you know why the Belt and Road Initiative has been, I'll not say 100% successful, but quite successful is that China loves dealing with countries that are not democratic. China finds it very difficult to deal with democracies. What the Chinese will do is go to an Asian country like Pakistan or go to Congo or some other country in Africa, right? And figure out small country, small population, corrupt political leadership, instability. Let's take it over. So the way the Chinese work, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty simple. They carry big checkbooks. They go, they bribe the leaders. They bribe the heads of state. They take concessions, billions of dollars of concessions. And those people, obviously greedy, they'll sign away. Pakistan signed away much of Pakistan to China. The previous government in Sri Lanka had signed away much of Sri Lanka to China. So the same model has been replicated in Africa. Now suddenly the United States of America has woken up. And they said, no, we have to counter Chinese influence. But I don't understand. I mean, you see, if you have to counter China, then you have to come in with twice the amount of money and twice the amount of effort. It can't be done with one Lobito corridor. Sounds pretty fancy. Atlantic Ocean, from Zambia to Angola. It sounds very ambitious. It sounds very polished and nice, but it's not. I mean, China has spent hundreds of billions of dollars on the Belt and Road Initiative. Now today, China is spending a little less on the Belt and Road Initiative because the Chinese economy is taking a hammering. China does not feel that it can spend so much of money like it did for the past 20 years. The Chinese economy is slowing down. People are talking about a recession. I'm not sure there is going to be a recession in China, but people are saying that over a period of a few years, if this downslide does not stop, there will be a recession in China. Now, having said that, this entire Lobito corridor, it needs to be seen in a certain context. This is not encompassing all of Africa, right? The African Union has 55 countries. This impacts only 2. And mostly it impacts Zambia because the minerals are being taken from Zambia. All they are using Angola for is like a corridor. Because it passes through Angola, so it passes through Angola. That's it. Because Lobito is in Angola, in the coast. So, how does America actually counter the Chinese? Why this half-hearted attempt by the Biden administration, and where is this leading to? If there is a larger game plan in Africa, if there is a larger game plan of a bunch of countries coming together and saying that, hey, we are going to invest $500 billion US in Africa. And we're going to counter the Chinese and we have deep pockets and let's do it. Then it can be understood. But you're countering China with $1.6 billion, out of which only 500 million US will give, and the rest it will help raise from the African Development Bank, etc., etc. So what is America's input? $500 million. With $500 million in its kitty, America launches a project called the Lobito Corridor and wants to counter China in Africa. Best of luck, America. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you what exactly is happening. President Joe Biden's administration, I've said that a new railway line linking Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo to Angola's Lobito. So, DRC, Zambia and Angola. That's how it flows, right? And Lobito Atlantic Railway would provide a quicker western route to market for metal and minerals produced in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And the Lobito Corridor establishes a trade route from the Congolese copper belt to the Atlantic Ocean. So, ladies and gentlemen, from Zambia to the Democratic Republic of Congo to Angola, this corridor goes, the Lobito Corridor, and the US and EU launch feasibility studies for a new rail line expansion between Zambia and Angola. Now, you see, they are obviously going to find a lot of challenges from the Chinese, because the Chinese are well ensconced, they are already there. So this causes, great problems for the Americans. How do you do it in presence of the Chinese? You're not putting enough money on the table. So what you're telling the Africans is that we are going to provide an alternative to the Chinese. But then you don't have money. What India did during G20 was, Prime Minister Modi actually said that African Union will become part of G20. So when the African Union becomes part of the G20, it leads to greater trade, it leads to greater symbiosis, it leads to greater integration with the globe. Because then you have a platform. Earlier, the African countries did not have a platform. The African Union did not have a platform. Suddenly, the African Union, 55 countries, plug into G20. And G20 are the biggest 20 richest countries in the world. I mean, tremendous amount of wealth, right? And I don't know what percentage of the global GDP, and countries mostly which are, democracies mostly. So all this is happening in this fair in Africa. But here is the point. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's also about giving a choice to African countries. And this choice is important. And what is that choice? Till today, for the past 20 years till today, the African countries did not have a choice. They don't have the money. They have a lot of mineral wealth, but they don't have technology. They don't have access to easy cash. They don't know how to take out that tremendous amount of wealth that is there under the ground. Even Nigeria that has oil, it's dependent upon Western oil companies to take out that oil. like Saudi Arabia was decades back when it first discovered oil. The Arabs didn't know how to take out oil from the ground. It is the white man who told them that, hey, this is oil and this is liquid gold. We'll take it out for you. And that is how Saudi Arabia became a rich country. Similarly, that can happen in Africa also. But here's the problem, that it's too much of Chinese interference. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know why the Chinese always have an upper hand in such matters? They have an upper hand not because they have more money, because America actually has more money than China. The problem is that in China, or the problem with this entire scenario for America is that in China, there is one single line of decision making. Decisions are executed and implemented much, much faster. And number three, most importantly, China doesn't bother if this country is a democracy or not a democracy. China doesn't bother if this country has a human rights record or no human rights. China does not care about all of those things. China cares about making money, right? But what the Americans could have done with this, and this is my personal analysis, what the Americans could have done is given people of Africa an alternate. Like I was saying, for the past 20 years, there was no alternate. There was only the Belt and Road, or there was only Chinese investments. There were only Chinese investments, there's nothing else. China has been investing. Nobody invested so widely and so broadly in Africa like the Chinese. But now the Americans are coming. So that free reign of the Chinese is over. That the Chinese master will tell the Africans that, hey, I want to do this, and they will say, all right, pay us this much money and then you can do it. So that thing is over. Today, America has introduced competition in Africa. A lot of countries are now going to tell the Americans, you have done it for the Congo, you've done it for Zambia, you've done it for Angola. Will you also do it for Namibia? Will you also do it for Libya? Will you also do it for South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya? Will you do it for Madagascar? Will you do it for all these countries? Will you build infrastructure for us? And it's always good for the people when there is competition among superpowers, you know. When you have competition among superpowers, then people can negotiate the best deal for themselves. And I think the biggest thing about this Lobito corridor is not the fact that it's physically doing something on ground, which is very important, by the way. I'm not negating that aspect, but I'm saying that it has given the people of Africa an alternate from China, which earlier did not exist. So ladies and gentlemen, with this, I come to the end of this video, and I have only one question for the day. And this is by Subhashish Jaina. He says, recently Bharat is actively creating milestones in space sector. Should we invest more in ISRO to make us a space superpower? Absolutely. You know, I have very strong views about this, and the whole thing that we are a thrifty space program, and you know, ISRO can do what NASA does, but at 1/10 the cost. I think over a period of time we must get rid of this thing that we can do it cheaply. I mean, this is impressive till a certain limit, but space, I think we should increase ISRO's budget, and ISRO has done wonderful things, and this is the time to encourage ISRO and go in for massive space missions, manned space missions, put humans in space. And that will only happen when you put an enormous amount of money in ISRO. You have to put in big money in ISRO, big money, and research and development, etc. Then only it makes sense for, you know, this whole thing about, like for example, you know, when we were sending the Chandrayaan, so it was in orbit, and then there was the slingshot, and then it went to the moon, etc. And then there was the case of the Russian craft. The Russian craft or spacecraft directly went to the moon because it was larger, it had better, bigger boosters, right? So now this entire thing about the Indian space program being a thrifty program and we do it cheaply, good that we do it cheaply, excellent that we do it cheaply. But now is the time to come out of that and do something massive, do something big, do something which is truly path-breaking, both in size, scale, and impact. I think that is what ISRO should be looking at as a next step. Thank you very much for watching this video, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our channel, don't forget to press the bell icon. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai.